The odds are someone in this car has been affected by or knows someone that has dealt with addiction. There is a crisis that has swept across America, making its way into every corner of the nation. According to Pew Research, nearly half of all American adults, 46%, reports having a family member or close friend who has struggled with addiction. The dark hills and hollers of Appalachia are not immune to this issue. Today I'm going to paint a picture of the Heartbreak Holler. I will address what may be considered a sensitive subject to many, and in doing so I will address stigmas and misconceptions about a disease that affects so many people. What comes to mind when you imagine what addiction looks like in America? You may think of large cities, homelessness, impoverished communities, criminals. You might even think of a different era, such as the crack epidemic of the 1980s. But addiction is not confined to these terms or past decades. It is also found in the quiet hills of Appalachia. Think for a moment. What state do you believe has the highest rate of opioid overdoses? If your answer is West Virginia, you'd be correct. However, this is an issue that plagues nearly the entirety of Appalachia. Out of the top 10 states with the highest rate of opioid overdoses, 7 of them are in the Appalachian region. Out of those 7 Appalachian states, the only city in those states that even breaks the top 10 largest cities in the U.S. is Philadelphia. Clearly, we have to reimagine what addiction looks like in America, because according to these statistics, it's not our large cities. Appalachia is plagued with opioid overdoses at rates twice the national average, and coal communities are 4 times higher. Right now, we are most likely somewhere in West Virginia, a state built largely by the exploitation of the land and its people. There is a long history in West Virginia between the coal, pharmaceutical industry, and the working people. The multifaceted issues that were born through these relationships have led to a state plagued with the disease of despair. Diseases of despair are mortalities that are linked to suicide, drug overdoses, alcohol poisoning, and chronic liver disease. Hidden within all these terms are people's lives. Ones of hardships, isolation, economic instability, but also rooted within a deep history and strong culture. This emotion and energy of growing up in a place where you feel hopelessness and despair is captured in a song by Tyler Childers. Childers grew up in Lawrence County, Kentucky, to a father who worked in coal mining and a mother who was a nurse. While Childers grew up having a relatively normal Appalachian childhood, he was no stranger to hardship and the pressures of drinking and drugs in a small coal town. As he got older, Childers struggled with addiction for many years before finally being able to get clean. This song recounts his upbringing and the words his father once tried to instill in him.
Daddy worked like a mule mining Pike County coal. He fucked up his back and couldn't work anymore. He said, one of these days you'll get out of these hills. Keep your nose on the grindstone and out of the pills. See, the ways of this world will just bring you to tears. Keep the Lord in your heart and you'll have nothing to fear. Live the best that you can and don't lie and don't steal. Keep your nose on the grindstone and out of the pills. Well, Daddy, I've been trying, I just can't catch a break. There's too much in this world I can't seem to shake. But I remember your words, Lord, they bring me to chills. Keep your nose on the grindstone and out of the pills.
Childers is portraying an image so common in coal communities throughout the Appalachian region, a story of a working man in the coal mines that injures himself because of the intense labor of mining, working long hours to get by and support their family, hoping that one day their children can make it out of these hills. There's a correlation between counties' coal production and opioid use, and this is for multiple reasons. First, coal mining is a backbreaking and hazardous job. Second, it's an industry in decline, which is devastating for a state that relied on it for over a century. Third, pharmaceutical companies have long recognized the vulnerabilities that are created by these two conditions. Coal mining has always been a dangerous job. In the early days of coal mining, workers often faced cave-ins, explosions, toxic gases, and much more, leading to high rates of fatalities among miners. Alcoholism was prevalent, and predecessors to modern painkillers were given out in coal camps. 125,000 miners once worked in West Virginia, digging by pickaxe and shovel, but by the 1950s, miners were starting to be replaced by machine, leading to the loss of over 70,000 mining jobs. By 1990, there were 30,000 miners left in West Virginia, and today there are less than 12,000 people in the entire West Virginia coal industry. This has created a landscape far too common across the Appalachian region. Towns that once boomed with populations in the tens to hundreds of thousands of people were left desolate as people moved out with the jobs. However, this shutting down of economic opportunity opened the doors for a powerful industry to take advantage of a vulnerable population. According to the American Addiction Center, the mining industry has the highest rates of substance abuse disorder compared to any other industry. There is a stigma around addiction, that bad people do drugs, but we have to look at it from a different perspective that looks at deeper issues at play. There is often a complicated web of reasons that people turn to drugs. Sometimes it is an injury. Some are born into it. For others, it is an escape from reality. The isolation of mining communities, combined with the stress of dangerous work, long hours, and economic instability, can create the grounds for substance abuse to be used as a coping method. For those that are born into an environment where drug use is normalized, it can streamline the generational pipeline of addiction. Clearly, drug use that then turns into addiction can't be looked at as a personal choice and lack of morals. By examining the options available to those in impoverished communities in small-town Appalachia, it is easy to see why many turn to drugs, especially when you realize how these communities were flooded with pills by Big Pharma at unprecedented rates. In recent decades, light has been shed on the pharmaceutical industry's practices regarding opioid manufacturing and marketing. One trial in Cable County, West Virginia, recently revealed that 81 million pills were shipped to a town of 91,000 people between the years 2006 and 2014. Another city and 3 surrounding counties of Norton, Virginia, had 74 million opioid pills shipped, enough to provide every resident with 106 pills every year. These two communities are a small example of the massive flood of opioids to the small communities across Appalachia, as Purdue Pharma distributed approximately 76 billion oxycodone and hydrocodone pills from 2006 to 2012. This action was not by mistake. Pharmaceutical companies know that these communities were a vulnerable market, and they took advantage of them. Back in 1996, Purdue Pharma introduced OxyContin to the market, a slow-release form of oxycodone. Originally intended for end-of-life care or severe pain management for cancer patients, Purdue is now marketing the pain pills for ordinary pain management of any injury, regardless of terminal outcome. During this time, people accounted for ineffective pain management of the pills, and Richard Sackler, head of research of his family's company, invoked the idea of breakthrough pain as the reason for the short-lived effect of the pill, and addressed it by telling doctors and pharmacists to double the doses being prescribed to patients. Purdue swindled doctors through pain management seminars, which were basically all paid-for vacations, in order to convince doctors to start prescribing their pain pill to the average person with persistent pain. This method kept orders up and profits flowing, but they decided to double down. In 1997, Sackler hired a well-known medical spokesperson to promote addiction as a pseudo-disease that is only caused by improper dosage of medication. For years, Purdue Pharma perpetuated the stigmas of addiction by pushing the blame onto abusers as illegitimate pain sufferers. The practices of Purdue Pharma go much deeper than this, such as bribing FDA officials and falsifying documents, but this is a rabbit hole we don't have time for. By 2007, Purdue Pharma was sued and ordered to pay out over $600 million in fines for their misleading marketing scheme, and this was just the start of a plethora of lawsuits which ended with Purdue Pharma declaring bankruptcy in 2019. However, the damage had already been done. Hundreds of thousands of users were now addicted to opioids and now had to face terrible withdrawals or continue to find ways to get high, often leading to cheaper and more dangerous alternatives. According to the CDC, between 1999 to 2016, opioids claimed the lives of 630,000 Americans. To put that in perspective, that is more than all of the U.S. military deaths since the United States entered World War I in 1917 to today. In other words, it has taken just 17 years for opioids to do the damage that over 100 years of war has inflicted. Humanity has a long relationship with pain, and more specifically, how to not have pain. Our evolution as humans has been a complicated web of history of trying to avoid the things that hurt and to keep doing the things that feel good. This is a massive oversimplification of our pain and reward systems, but at the bones, these are the basic guiding principles of our brains. Aside from the recent wrongdoings of modern big pharma, there is a history of pain management in Appalachia. The culture of Appalachia pain management may have started in the coal camps as the doctors in the camps needed to keep the men working, so they did what they could, prescribing strong painkillers or alcohol to drink the pain away. But that culture has continued even after the loss of the coal industry. As time has passed and prescription opioids have already reached their peaks in manufacturing and use, there are still extremely high rates of drug overdoses in the Appalachian region. When one drug becomes unavailable, the rise of another will take its place, and we saw that happen with heroin rates skyrocketing in 2010, and then in 2014 we see the rise of fentanyl, one of the strongest and deadliest drugs ever created. Clearly, the death and despair that overshadows the region cannot be attributed to one situation, one type of medication, or even one company. This is a multifaceted problem that addresses mental health, economic disparity, social isolation, manipulation, and much more. Trying to unpack the Heartbreak Holler is a difficult task, as it is more than just looking back at the region's history. It involves diving into the ongoing evolution of real people's lives in Appalachia, learning who the people behind the statistics are. In a region where the disease of despair is so prevalent, where all seems hopeless, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. To address the economic hardships that have been left from the loss of the coal industry, new sustainable economic opportunities must be brought back to the region. By providing proper medical support, counseling, therapy, and destigmatizing addiction, those that are affected can begin to heal. There are many opportunities to bring back hope to the communities that have been overlooked for so long. To rebuild a fractured community, you have to start by communicating with the people. By understanding the issues that affect each community and learning their unique histories, we can begin to break down and understand what it means to be an Appalachian, and then we can start to address the issues of the Heartbreak Holler.